What is up, freaks? Welcome back to Tales from the Crypt. It's your boy Marty Bent here on the rooftop with our boy Matt Odell for this edition of Rabbit Hole Recap. Matt, how's it feel to be on the roof?
What's up, freaks? This is my first time, right?
Well, you've been up here for dinner. You've never recorded up here.
Yeah, it's my first time recording up here.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
It's a beautiful roof. Weather's perfect today. The humming of some helicopters in the background. Let's hope they're flying safe today around this Manhattan.
I'm looking forward to the police siren that will be in this episode at some point.
It's bound to happen. It is off hours. It's not peak hours here in Brooklyn. Recording around noon right now, getting an early rip in. I'm pulling up the price right now. According to the Trade Block XBX Index, the price of Bitcoin is $11,721.80. Pretty volatile last couple days.
85 sats percent.
85 sats percent. Do we have a block?
We can. Yeah, I mean, it has been volatile, right? We passed 13K again, and then we dropped again. We did the same. It's just they wanted to make sure to liquidate everyone on both sides of the MEX traders.
Yeah, it's important to humble all the traders out there.
We're at 584,943.
There we go. 584,583?
943.
943.
Yeah.
Blocks keep coming in every 10 minutes, roughly. Bitcoin works.
It's beautiful.
And we found that out this week. We were going to get to that. Before we get to that, I got to give a shout-out to our sponsors. Let's give a shout-out to Cash App. They just allowed you freaks to deposit to the app if you ever want to sell Bitcoin there. And now there's rumors spreading. I'm not sure if this is official. We'll talk about this as well, but Bec32 support is being rolled out. Somebody tweeted at us or last week that they were able to send from Cash App to Wasabi. So make sure you check out the #1 app in the finance section of the App Store for the last 2 years. Take advantage of their fact that you can buy and sell Bitcoin via the Cash App. Help start stacking sats, and then also their Boost program comes with a Boost card. You can use that at merchants. I used it today to buy coffee. I used it twice yesterday. Actually, 3 times yesterday. I bought coffee in the morning. I got Chipotle later, and then I bought a steak. It was 24 hours. It wasn't a one day. Then I bought a steak at Whole Foods the next morning.
The coolest part about the deposits being enabled is that you can fund your cash card if you wanted to.
Yeah, and go use it to buy things.
Yeah.
Spend your Bitcoin. I'm not advising that. Just if you want to, optionality is there. So go check out your local app store today. And then also shout out to Unchained Capital and their Vault program in particular. They're 203 multi-sig. They, if you guys are looking for a partner in your multi-sig transaction, Unchained Capital is there. You can use a Trezor or Ledger, and I believe they're adding Coldcard support as well. And if you ever need Unchained to step in and be that second in that 2 of 3 signature scheme, they can do that for you. If you don't even need them, though, you can do 2 of the 3 signatures yourself, or they're also open sourcing their multi-sig solution. So if you don't even want Unchained, they're open sourcing that for the community. On top of that, they have their loan program. Once you're in the vault, you have access to Bitcoin collateralized loans. You can use that to not sell your Bitcoin. Friends don't let friends sell Bitcoin. So go to unchained-capital.com/vaults. Check out the vaults. Get 3 free months of Saifedean Moose's the Bitcoin Standard Research Bulletin. And Matt, we got a funny shout out today.
Oh, but before that, we should shill our Cash App promo code because it's
for a good cause. Excuse me. Before we wrap up the ads, please, thank you for reminding me. Cash App, use the promo code StackingSats, one word. And you'll, if this is the first time you're downloading the app, share the promo code with your friends and family who don't have the app as well. They'll get $5, and then Square will donate $5 to Owls Lacrosse, a charity near and dear to my heart. It's helping kids in Chicago via the sport of lacrosse. So Stacking Sats is the promo code for that. And the contribution we got today is asking the Bitcoin community to help throw some sats at something. Here it goes. It's a Dear Bitcoin community. We need to figure out how we call all chip in some sats to purchase a Super Bowl ad. Not 100% coherent there, but obviously we need to figure out how to get enough sats to purchase a Super Bowl ad. even if it just says Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin for 30 seconds, then that would be amazing. Who is with me? At Billy MacDo on Twitter. That's at Billy MacDo.
Did you meet Billy at Bitcoin 2019?
Yeah.
He had the pro move. He like printed a hat that just had his Twitter handle on the front of the hat, so everyone knew who he was.
It's a sly move, Billy. And hey, I know we want a Super Bowl ad. Let's start small with these plane ads that go through the Jersey Shore. I think those are a lot more affordable. So we need to tighten down the copy for that ad, as it's going to be flying to and in the face of sunbathers at some point later this summer.
There you go. I'm happy to support both. And I like his idea for the ad. It should just say Bitcoin on the screen, and just for 30 seconds it just says Bitcoin.
It would be on top of people's minds.
There you go.
Is it broken? It's one of those. Is it one of those commercials where it's like, oh, it's not working, but it actually works? It's like it starts the conversation like, Bitcoin just had like a 30-second frozen ad, but actually it was intentional all along.
I love it.
I'm gonna attack the normies with that. All right. Let's get to the list. A lot of stuff going on this week. We've got an hour here. Matt was doing some experimentation over the weekend. I think it's a good place to start. So the Coldcard came out with a bunch of new updates. Wasabi compatible. We've been talking about it on the Rabbit Hole Recap for the last few weeks, last few months. And Matt has done the product review, and it seems you're pretty pumped with the setup.
Best hardware wallet I've ever used. And I don't say that lightly. I pre-ordered the original. We both love all this hardware. I pre-ordered the original Coldcard, and it didn't have the clicky buttons yet, and I couldn't recommend it because that was like my main issue, and it relied on using Electrum. So they recently updated the Coldcard. Now it has these nice clicky buttons. It used to have like touchscreen buttons. And they also the Wasabi team released an update. So they both released updates that made it so that using the Coldcard with Wasabi becomes way easier. So I ran through the whole setup process. I set up a seed. I backed up my seed to a micro SD card. I received a transaction through Wasabi. I sent a transaction through Wasabi. I wiped the device. I restored the device. Never has to connect to a computer. The whole time you're just shuttling things through the micro SD card. Even the firmware update, you download it, drag it onto an SD card, stick the SD card into the Coldcard, and then go to firmware update and updates it.
Yes.
And that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, and that's probably the one conceivable attack vector that we were talking about, is if somebody gets something on the micro SD card when you're downloading the implementation, but you can check that with PGP, correct?
No, yeah, I mean, and also the device is verifying it when you, just like when you do a firmware update on a Trezor or a Ledger, it's verifying the signatures if they're authorized or not. What was really cool is you can Well, first of all, we're going to do a full write-up of the Coldcard and versus the Trezor and versus the Ledger, and we're going to do like a video demo of it. But I think this is like the easiest, most secure setup you can have, which is like a Coldcard with Wasabi, and then have Wasabi connect to your full node. It's just very simple, and it's way more user friendly, I think, than you'd expect. One of the other cool things, as we talked about on the last episode, I think, is that they added the ability to mix in dice rolls. So, like, one of the issues with these hardware wallets is you're trusting the random number generator inside the wallet. When you set up the Coldcard, when you see the seed, if you press the button number 4, you can just start rolling dice, and every time you roll a dice, you just click which button on the Coldcard. It has 1 through 9, a nice little number pad on the device. You click which button you want on the device is the dice roll, and it just adds entropy to the seed, and you can do it as many times as you want, and then it gives you the full seed to do the full backup. I bought casino dice for that.
Yeah, you brought some casino dice over. Very different than your Yahtzee dice.
I know. I've never holded casino dice before.
Neither have I.
It's probably not necessary if you're using this mix-in feature. Like, you can generate only based on dice rolls, but if you use this mix-in feature, you also have the the actual randomness of the device to protect you. It's just like a bonus. But I brought you a casino dice because they only come in 5. You can buy them on Amazon. And yeah, it's just a really dope product. I also have I found out today that Shift Crypto added me to their beta testing. They have the new hardware wallet coming out.
Yeah. When is that supposed to drop?
I'm not sure, but they already did the first round of beta testers, and now I'm in the second round, so it's shipped. So I should have it in my hands like pretty soon.
So we'll have another review
testing
coming.
That one out too.
That has to do with SSD. You have to use an SSD card with that.
No, it just plugs in right into your computer.
Okay.
Do you remember their original one? I think it was screenless. I never actually played with it. But you plug it in like a USB stick directly into your computer, and it's it has a little screen on. It's USB-C. You just plug it right into your computer.
Boss.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, like I haven't really looked into it that hard. I just excited that I'm getting the beta.
It seems that it's got some pretty high standards to surpass after your Coldcard experience.
I was blown away. Everything about the Coldcard. The build quality is great. Rodolfo's great. It's transparent case, which is awesome. Oh, when you wipe the device. So by the way, whenever you use a hardware wallet for the first time, if you actually plan on using it, like generate a seed, do a test transaction, send and receive, receive and send Bitcoin, and then wipe the device. Like actually wipe the device and restore it. Try and restore it. So I did that with the Coldcard, and when you're scrolling through, it's like, if you wipe your device, you better have a backup, like you're screwed, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't want to scroll down because I'm just testing. So I just pressed the OK button, and it aborted the device fail. And then I went back, and I scrolled down, and it was like, just to make sure you actually read this message, you have to press 4 to confirm it. I fucking love that. I thought it was like, just the little things. Like
forcing user attention. It's good. Yeah. It's
The other thing to keep in mind is the when you set it up with Wasabi, you're exporting like a skeleton wallet to the SD card, then putting it on your computer and putting it into Wasabi. That's basically it's like an XPub, so it's Wasabi can generate all your addresses, so you can receive on Wasabi without having to do anything with your Coldcard. Keep in mind that file is like really sensitive, right? Like no one can steal your money with that file, but they can see all your transactions.
They can steal your privacy.
Yeah, so be careful with that.
Very good point to note. So be on the lookout. We're going to do right up on that. It'll be on the website at some point in the near future.
Yeah, that other hard wallet is the Bitbox 02. They had the Bitbox 1. Yeah, so looking forward to that.
Bang, bang. The proliferation of hardware continues, from nodes to wallets to miners. We got the most powerful miner in the world is going to hit the market in like a month or two, apparently. The What's
From
miner.
Who?
What's miner? Yeah.
Badass.
We'll see. No, we can't tell until it's in production, but that's the word on the street.
I mean, hash rate's at all-time highs right now. So.
Yeah, I think it hit 74 exahash earlier this week at some point.
That's pretty crazy.
I've heard some people saying that it could double by the end of this year.
What about the mining death spiral, Marty? I thought that was going to happen.
Hey, you never know. You never know, Matt. It could happen.
Yeah, okay.
Not. That's why the difficulty adjustment exists. So staying on updates and product review, Nodl, they updated to LND 0.7. So just be aware of that if you have a Nodl. LND, and we talked about LND 0.7 last week. The upgrades there are Watchtowers and Child Pays for Parent are the two big ones, among other efficiency gains on top of that. And then as well, Eclair, which version was it? Eclair version 0.3.1 came out, and the major changes there, API improvements, better fee control when you're computing routes, more comprehensive balance information, can provide your own primage when you create payment invoices. You can provide pre-computed payment routes when you send payments. And then on top of that is performance improvements, smarter payment relay logic, automatic reconnection using published node addresses, and other miscellaneous improvements. So if you're running Eclair, that new version just dropped as well.
Badass.
Yeah. slowly but surely it happens. And I think this is a good segue into, like, I wrote about this in the Bent today, like the fee pressure at certain price levels. So we alluded to it earlier. We touched 13,000 a little bit there at one point in the last 7 days. And Kevin Rook, he posted something. He looked at the data on Coinmetrics, and the average fee when we hit 13,000 this time around was like $1.30. Where in 2017, 2018, the last time we were at those levels, the fees are around like $18, I believe. So with the improvements afforded to us by SegWit, companies batching transactions and updating the BEC32 addresses, we're able to be more efficient, and it seems that Bitcoin is scaling and fee pressure is falling as these improvements come to the protocol and better practices happen with the companies using the Bitcoin blockchain.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that fees aren't higher right now. I was like rushing, like 8 months ago, a year ago, I was like rushing to make sure that I was like all prepared for the next fee crisis. And they haven't been moving up as quick as I expected. I think a lot of it also is, we were talking about this last week, is that I feel like we don't really have new retail coming in yet.
Mm-hmm.
So like the people that are using Bitcoin right now are probably more experienced users, and they know that they can wait and they can get away with the lower fee.
Yes, exactly. So that's like the question at hand: is this a correlation? Is this a case of correlation? Is not causation? What's more impactful? The lack of retail use of block space, or the efficiencies afforded by upgrades? Like, what's more impactful?
Yeah, I think it's
Probably,
like like most things, it's a combination of both,
exactly.
right?
Yeah. So be interested to see which side has more impact this time around. But again, there's still improvements to be made. Fee estimation still isn't perfect, so when you're sending transactions, make sure you check better fee estimators that exist online. Mempool.space is one that we've been liking recently.
And whatthefee.io is really good.
Yeah, whatthefee.io. So it can be improved even further. But it seems like, that's what I wrote today, Bitcoin is a system. I wrote code base. I was actually had a shower thought. I wish I said system instead of code base, but Bitcoin is a system that sort of uses incentives to leverage human labor to fortify its systems over time, and it seems like it's getting fortified.
Yeah, I love it. It's yeah, I mean the incentives work, right? Who wants to pay more for their transaction? I mean, look at Cash App. Cash App just so it looks like BEC32 is being it's a staged rollout, the BEC32 withdrawals, but Cash App pays your transaction fee when you withdraw. They have a direct incentive to make sure that those fees are as low as possible because it comes out of their pocket.
Exactly. So again, the incentives are just beautiful, and staying on incentives and the protocol and the system showing that it works this week. Yesterday morning, Justin Carmana from Bitrefill, I believe, noticed this on his node. It looks as if a miner wasted a ton of energy and tried to award themselves 13.265. I could be off on the exact number, but they tried to award themselves like 1 Bitcoin and change above the block reward, which is 12.5 Bitcoin right now, and my full node rejected it. And you saw the incentive system and the checks and balances of the system come into play as full nodes around the world said, hey, you're not in consensus, we're going to reject this block from you.
I mean, that's why we run full nodes, right?
Yeah. No, it's
Don't
cool.
trust, verify.
Yeah, it was cool. Like, I was online, like I was about to use a screenshot from somebody else's node for the Bent yesterday, and I was like, wait a second, I have my node right here. I checked the debug log files, and of course, Control F invalid, and that exact block was called invalid by my block as well.
What I thought was really cool is BitMEX has their, like, that portal page for BitMEX research, forkmonitor.info, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And they run a bunch of old nodes too. It doesn't matter which software version you had; they just all rejected it in unison.
Yeah, I think I'm not on version 0.18 yet. I don't think I might not haven't upgraded yet, just out of laziness. And so I think I'm still on 17.1, and it blocked it.
There you go.
And then, like, to talk about the specific instance with this miner, it looks as if the miner was using proprietary software to construct blocks, and it looks like as if they were.
It was Ampool, right?
I think so, but it looks like that particular block, they mistakenly added the fees of the transactions that they would have added to the block to the Coinbase transaction.
Yeah, to the reward instead of. They didn't include the transactions.
Yeah, but they didn't include the transactions, so
Yeah.
it looks like it was a bug, and they tried to group transactions and add the fees, and somehow they forgot the transactions, added it to the Coinbase reward.
So instead, they lost everything.
Yes. So they wasted a lot of power. $150,000 mistake at the time.
So now their incentive is to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
The system works. It works. And don't let anybody tell you that you don't need to run a full node. And it was really empowering seeing it on my own computer, on my own device. Like, hey, I helped contribute to the rules here.
I mean, that's why we need to keep node operating costs as low as possible, right? So that anyone can run it if they want to, and that we can have as many as possible among as many holders as possible.
Yeah. No, and that's a good segue into Samurai version 99.81, which is trying to help. Samurai is a company and a team that we've talked a lot about here on Rabbit Hole Recap and Tales from the Crypt at large. But they just had a new release too. Came out with a blog post, entered the dojo. So they've got a bunch of new releases, and they're open source. They have open sourced their Node software as well.
The big one here is that you can easily pair it to your dojo if you're running a dojo node, which is a node with their own software on top that then connects through Tor to your device, so that you don't have to rely on their servers at all. The other big thing is they've now they default to Bech32 as well. It was already an option that was when you set up a receiving address, you could switch to Bech32, but now it defaults to it, which is good to see. More people moving over to that as a standard. But you can still switch back to the legacy addresses and the wrap SegWit address if you want. And the same way you used to switch to Bech32, now you do it the opposite way.
Dang, man. So if you're running Dojo, Samurai, they've upgraded. Upgrade your stuff, even though it's hypocritical coming from me, somebody who just talked about how he hasn't updated his node in a few versions.
Well, yeah. So right now, the only way to get the dojo is to run it yourself on your own computer.
Yes.
I haven't tried it yet. Just because we've been running all over the place. I got to. Soon you'll be able to buy the Nodl dojo.
It's red.
It's red. So you buy the Nodl dojo. I've seen some pre-production pictures. It looks good. You buy the Nodl dojo. You download the Samurai Wallet app. You sync it. Right now, Whirlpool is running on a computer, which is their CoinJoin implementation. So you have a separate thing running on your computer. In the future, you won't even need that. Supposedly, the plan is that you just like open up the Samurai app. You click enter CoinJoin rounds, and it just starts mixing until you're ready.
Bang bang. And the benefit of Samurai's mixing pools is that they have different denominations. Typically lower than Wasabi is right now.
They're both the two current pools they have are both lower than Wasabi.
Yeah.
Wasabi's at 10 million sats, and the two pools for Whirlpool are 5 million and 1 million sats. Yeah.
Bang bang. Let's shift to more. I don't want to call it gossip, but I shouldn't call it gossip. But Blockstack, they announced that they officially got approval from the SEC to do a token offering that will be completely compliant within U.S. regulations.
What are they calling it? Reg A plus?
Yes, I believe so.
So the difference is I guess they did a sale last year that was only to accredited investors, and then this time any schmuck can invest in it with full KYC. If you do full KYC AML checks, yeah.
Is this an innovation on the ICO?
I mean, it is an ICO just with regulatory overhead, right? It's just I mean, I guess it's nice that it has to be more transparent. They tell you exactly how much money the first investors paid for it and how much what I think the return is like 2,500% from anyone who invested in their Series A investment got the token as well for like mad cheap, and same with the two founders.
I think it was like half a penny or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a worthless token that shouldn't exist, that's completely centralized, that they're doing KYC on all their holders, which is going to make it even harder for it to ever truly be distributed. And meanwhile, like in all their all their publishing and stuff, they're like, we're building the decentralized internet. Like, you can't just call something decentralized and like make it decentralized. That's not, I don't know. It's just, I think it's whatever. It doesn't really matter one way or the other. It's neither good news or bad news. But it's just frustrating, like, seeing all these people like congratulating them on it. Like, I don't really think congratulations are in order.
Is it possible to be decentralized with KYC? Like, that seems to be your biggest.
You know, I don't. First of all, I don't get why the token needs to exist in the first place. They're doing it purely for fundraise, even though you get no equity, which is the same issue where we have with all this other tokenomics that we see that involves sales. You know, we have a great way of distribution already. It's POW. It requires no KYC. Like, there's no central party that controls it. But yeah, I think that if you KYC all the holders, then first of all, like we've talked about this in terms of Bitcoin, right? Is that if you KYC all the holders and like 10% aren't KYC'd because of like resales or something, like those 10%'s privacy is also at risk, because you know the other 90% of addresses and stuff, process of elimination, if they do any kind of interaction with them, stuff like that. It'll also be like extremely easy for the government to eventually enforce KYC across the board. Like, I don't see, if it's regulatory compliant, like, you really think that the U.S. government is going to just let you resell it without KYC being happening? Like, no, I don't think so. So you end up with a situation where just like all the users will eventually be KYC'd. And yeah, I don't think, I think if the tech is actually good, like, someone will fork it without this token involved. Even if for some reason, I'll give you the hypothetical that the token is absolutely necessary and I'm wrong about that. Someone will fork it with a different token that isn't complete centralized bullshit.
Potentially Gab. They've been forking a lot of
There
stuff
you go.
recently. No, I tend to agree with everything you just said there. It's interesting because what I understand, like the stack token, it's like a dev incentive play, correct? Mainly.
It's both. They
Yeah.
like also mix it in. You're supposed to pay like fees with it. You need the stack token to use the platform, is my understanding.
Yeah, and
then they also have, as part of this raise, they're setting some free stack tokens aside that, you know, they printed out of thin air, and they're gonna give it to something called a dev mining fund, which is they're just gonna pay like people to develop on it.
yeah, that's I mean, it's a topic I've been passionate about in the past. I haven't touched on it in a while, but like the dev incentives meme, I think is completely overblown. I mean, like we just talked about, like Bitcoin has fortified its system pretty consistently and handedly over the last decade and a half without any built-in dev incentive mechanism other than distributing Bitcoin to the network every 10 minutes. That's the only incentive.
Yeah, and greed,
yeah.
right? Just like people want to make money, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They want to see Bitcoin succeed. They want to see their bags increase in value. They want to see their businesses that run alongside Bitcoin do better business, do bigger business.
Yeah. No. Yeah, so Blockstack, they're officially been anointed by the SEC to do this. So be aware that will be launched to the public soon.
You know, it could be interesting. Like someone responded to me on Twitter. Like, it could be interesting from like pseudo IPOs, and like if they're open to pseudo IPOs in the future, because I mean stocks already require KYC. So like if you're like a non-accredited investor and you could get like basically like Kickstarter but with equity, like it won't be decentralized at all, but like that could be useful to people. You know, like I'm not against that idea as like a fundraising mechanism, but like you need equity. Like you don't need a worthless token that shouldn't, you know. That's where my issue is. Yeah,
no, I tend to agree. So again, be aware that's happening. No, and I actually have a lot of respect for the Blockstack team. I've had Patrick Stanley on this podcast before. Manib, somebody I respected early on in my Bitcoin life. He was very good at describing distributed systems, and Ryan Shea, their lessons that they learned at Namecoin was very illuminating to me in the nature of proof of work in particular. So it's interesting to see them go down this path.
Yeah, those guys are OGs. I have a ton of respect for them. I just feel like their investors probably probably pushed the token on them. There's just so much money to be made on this bullshit.
Yeah. It's actually, I interviewed Paranoid Bull, what was that, 2 days ago now, and that episode will come out next week, but that's what we talked about, like that's what he described, that the siren call to do that, it's too easy, like you can't deny it.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that episode, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alex talked about that too in our episode. It's another great episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is just, it was, but I mean, it was super appealing, especially in 2017 when it looked like everyone could possibly get away with it and stuff like that. Like, I don't know how appealing it is now in 2019, regulatory compliance. I think one of the whole value props of ICOs in the first place there was no regulations and everything. That it was just completely Wild West, right? Like, why not just do like a regular equity raise?
Yeah. Well, isn't that what DAOs are for? Isn't that what they're supposed to accomplish? That decentralized equity raise?
We'll see. Are there any like functioning?
I don't know. Should we rehash this? We were only 30 minutes in. We only have 2 topics left, so maybe this is a good time to rehash the DAO hack and the story around the first DAO.
When did that happen? In 2016?
I think the summer of 2016. Yes, like May or June 2016.
All I know is to all the people who.
Let's describe the story for maybe some freaks who weren't around back then. So
okay, you want to shoot?
Was it Ethereum's first ICO? The Slockit DAO.
I mean, it wasn't like a traditional. Was it a traditional ICO?
Sad, it's so long ago. It's like decades in.
Because you actually locked it up in a smart contract, right? And you got DAO tokens, and the idea was that the DAO was supposed to then invest in other ICOs.
Yeah, if you're getting DAO tokens, that's a coin. It's a token, so.
And then they were going to invest in investments, and there was going to be like votes on it and all that stuff.
Yeah, and the team that ran this ICO, this DAO funding, we'll just refer to it now since we're not positive if it was considered an ICO, but they ran like some business where they wanted to run smart contracts like lock and unlock bikes and scooters and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it definitely was an ICO. It was one of the first. I mean, Ethereum itself was one of the first ICOs.
Yes.
Yeah, but before they could even get... Oh, and the real value prop of the DAO to the Ethereum holders at the time, I mean, Ethereum was at like $6, $7, something like that, was that people were buying Ethereum to put in the DAO contract, and it was locked for a certain amount of time before you could remove it. So it was draining supply. Like the Ethereum guys, like there's always a new ploy to try and lock up as much supply as possible, because their monetary policy doesn't actually incentivize people to hold it. So they have to like come up with all these different schemes, and the DAO was like the first one, and then the ICO booms was like another one where all the ICOs were like holding on to it. So then there was a vulnerability was found in the DAO.
Yeah, so the ETH that was locked in those contracts, the smart contract had a vulnerability that allowed a hacker who executed a certain function to basically drain those smart contracts into an account of his choice. Or her choice. So
at this point, like the Ethereum supply was tightening because all this money was going into the DAO. The price was skyrocketing. It was at all-time highs. It was at like $20, $21, $22, shit like that. And then all of a sudden this vulnerability happens. And the attacker, what happened was, I think it was like the first day the funds weren't locked anymore, right? Because remember we said there was this lockup period? Maybe like 6 months after the original, somewhere around there, right? I think it was like June 2016.
I think it happened sooner. I think the lockup period did not.
Was shorter lockup period?
Yeah, I think he was able to bypass the lockup period.
I'm pretty sure it was like right when anyway, either way, he starts draining it, and then these guys calling themselves the White Hat Group started combating him by draining it preemptively, trying to drain it before everyone else could, right? And that White Hat Group never officially said who they were, but like it was like all the Ethereum core devs. Like there's no way it wasn't, you know? And then there's a whole other controversy with like
Well, that's what caused Ethereum Classic.
Right. So then they forked it out, right?
After a carbon vote.
With like 3% of people.
Less than that. I think it was like 2.
Right. And they basically rolled it back, but because Ethereum uses account balances, it's not like they had to roll back all blocks. They could just do that one contract.
Change the state in the block.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah.
Which isn't great because that means there's less. It's easier to create the political will to change balances and lock up funds and stuff, I feel like. But yeah, so then they did that. Ethereum Classic was born because Ethereum Classic didn't follow the fork. And so the White Hat Group had a ton of Ethereum Classic because they were draining it too. So there's a whole controversy about like how they said they were going to return the funds, but some look like they were sold to like try and crash the price of ETC when the fork first happened.
No, and actually, let's give credit to this instance. It also like brought to the fore the responsibility of exchanges when these forks happen. That was like a big, with Coinbase in particular. People were perturbed that they weren't given their ETC right away. They were eventually, but it took, I believe, 6 to 8 months, maybe even a year, maybe even many years. I forget the exact details.
I think they didn't get back the ETC until after they like started supporting Bitcoin Cash right away, right? And then there was a controversy that why were they giving people Bitcoin Cash and not ETC?
Yeah. So yeah, the nature of these systems, it creates, when you fork especially, it creates headaches for users and then exchanges too. And it's like an ethical dilemma. Is that I'm a believer if a coin forks. I mean, it's hard. Like, because Bitcoin's had like hundreds of forks. Like, I'm not going to go calling for all those UTXOs on those different chains, but
well, the thing about ETC, it was the original chain. The other chain had forked, right? Like, you have to. I think there's a responsibility there to at least support the original chain for a little bit afterwards. Do you remember they also got drained of the ETC because they just ignored it? They just said ETC doesn't exist. So they ignored it, and basically people were getting withdrawals. They would withdraw ETH, and it would come with some ETC too at the same time. And they had to buy it back on the market. Remember?
Yeah. No, that was there was a bug on Coinbase that people were exploiting like right after that fork. And I don't think many people know about that.
What, that Coinbase? It was like the only time Coinbase ever, I think, lost actual crypto.
Yeah.
That we know of.
Yeah. So what have we learned from this, Matt?
Well, one thing that I feel like is highly relevant right now because the Bitcoin dominance metric is going up and altcoins seem to go down.
What are we defining as the Bitcoin dominance metric?
I'm just saying the usual thing. I don't love the dominance metric because it's super easy to inflate the market caps of the illiquid chains of all the altcoins.
But we are big purveyors, myself included, of not using the market dominance when dominance isn't quote unquote in Bitcoin's favor.
Right. Which it is right now.
Yes.
But my point is Bitcoin's pumping and altcoins aren't pumping. So everyone's saying is when alt season, altcoins are dead forever. Like we had Ian Bellina came out and he was like, I'm a Bitcoin maximalist right now, and he's like the biggest like token bullshit guy ever.
Don't keep your private seeds on Evernote. Right.
He's supposedly yeah, I mean, maybe he didn't get wrecked from the apocalypse because he just got wrecked at the top when they stole his funds on Evernote. But I remember when the DAO happened, because we were both around when Ethereum ICO'd, didn't participate in the ICO. I watched it go up to like $20, and I was like, wow, Matt, maybe I fucked up. Like, I didn't participate in this. When it went from like 30 cents to $22 or whatever it was, it just pumped a shit ton with the DAO. And then after the DAO hack happened, it fell all the way down to like $3, $4.
I think less than $1 at one point.
I was like, it is done. It is dead. It is done. There's no way it's coming back. Blah, blah, blah. I was positive. 100%. So just take it with a grain of salt, Just that's what I think about when I think, did it really happen this time? Are altcoins dying? Like,
well, you want to keep dumping on ETH here, but like to that point, yes, it did keep pumping after that. It pumped all the way to USD highs and highs against Bitcoin in the summer of 2017. But since then,
it pumped to $1,500 from $2. I was 100% sure after the Dow hack that it was dead. I was like, no smart investor would invest in this. You can change it willy-nilly. The code isn't secure. They're running all these smart contracts that can't be audited. No one knows what the monetary policy is going to be. Like, there was all these reasons. I was like, when they try and scale this thing, they're going to make it super centralized. There's not going to be enough nodes. And I was right about a lot of that. I think everything's pointing to me being right about a lot of that. But I was wrong by a fucking lot, right? Like, it went so high.
The irrationality of the market. It exists. Are you calling a flippening? Is this the vibe I'm getting?
No, I'm not calling a fucking flippening. And I can't believe there's so much revisionist history. They're like, oh, Bitcoiners are so mean to us or whatever. For like 2 years, they parroted that flippening bullshit. And now they're like pretending, oh, Ethereum was never meant to compete with Bitcoin.
Now it's a programmable store of value.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
How many narratives have we gone through? Unstoppable apps. World computer.
Unstoppable world computer. Is that what it is? Unstoppable apps.
On the world computer.
On the world's computer.
Turing complete.
Turing complete.
DApps. That was big. ICOs, obviously.
DeFi pisses me off.
DeFi's new.
Yeah.
DeFi and programmable store of money, store of value, excuse me.
Store of value.
Are the two narratives they're running with now. Let's see if they stick. Maybe they will. Yeah, no, it's a little rant there. Know your history. It's important. Actually, had somebody tweeted me today. They recently listened to the first couple episodes of Tales from the Crypt. So if you some of you freaks are out there, are relatively new to the space and you want to learn about Bitcoin's history, the first 2 episodes of Tales from the Crypt were me nervously going through Bitcoin's history up until, I believe it was August or September of 2017.
Yeah, those are great. Definitely check them out.
Yeah, but it's important to know your history.
Also, we had no intention of going down that, so...
No, it was, again, we needed to fill time.
Don't kill us if the...
We crushed 10 minutes there.
Yeah, there you go.
But we do have a couple more topics left. Zap Android update. So Zap has their new update out. I have not played around with this yet, but I believe you have.
Well, you don't have Android.
Yeah.
The first Zap Android release, I got super excited, and then I couldn't send payments or create channels on it. I could just look at shit. So I'm not sure if this update lets me do that. I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah.
I've actually been having some issues. Yeah, we love Zap, so the update is great to see, and yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, it's been working very well on my iOS app. I've been using it every day.
What I really like is I like the Zap desktop light client mode. I think it's like a really simple way to get someone onboarded on Lightning without custodial. Even though it's not. I mean, ideally they run their own node, but it's like a nice stepping stone, I think.
Yeah. No, I would agree. Yeah, so Zap Android, if you're running that, there's been an update there. So check that out if you're running Zap on Android. And then our last topic that we have down here is SatNode on Twitter.
That's really fucking cool.
Yeah. So for you freaks that don't know, there's a Twitter account, SatNode, and there's nothing really special about the Twitter account other than it's just taking the messages that get sent to the Blockstream satellite and relaying them on Twitter.
Well, like Grubel's has a Blockstream satellite set up, and as he receives stuff, he set it up to then tweet it out. So it goes through the satellite, hits Grubel's laptop, and then goes up.
Yeah, there's a Blockstream satellite app, I believe, that allows you to send messages.
Or you can do it from the website.
Yes.
You can just go, if you type in Blockstream satellite into Google, it just takes you right to the link that just goes to the website. You could put text or like a small file in, then you pay, and it's like a negligible amount. It's like 5 sats or something.
I've been paying 50 sats. Let's do it now. We'll send a message here.
50 sats per byte, and then it comes out to what? Like 5 sats or 6 sats per, right?
Yeah. I've just been paying 50 because I've been using it from the Telegram app.
Oh, you've been paying? Yeah. So there's a bot that you could do it straight from the Telegram.
So there's a bot I downloaded over the weekend, and it's crazy how fast this stuff's happening. And this was actually, we didn't have this on the topic list at all, but very important tangent here. This is like the first time I'm like, holy shit, like this can reach all Telegram users. Like it's pretty easy setup once you follow the bot. So it's LNTX bots on Telegram, and you basically start it and you fund it with Lightning. So I imagine somebody, maybe they use a Rise wallet or they have a Blue wallet that somebody sent them Satoshis on that they have on their phone. They could easily fund this LNTX bot wallet right in the Telegram app, and that has a bunch of functions that you can use, and one is /app satellite, which communicates with the SAT node, the Blockstream satellite node, and the SAT node Twitter account will pick this up and relay this message. So I'm going to put -app satellite, and pay 50 Satoshi, so 50. And then what should our message be, Matt?
We should say hi from the pod.
Yeah.
Talking about SAT node, talking about Bitcoin and satellites. Talking about Bitcoin and satellites on TFTC 21 right now as we send this. Something to that effect?
I shortened it down a little bit.
Stay humble, stack sats, TFTC. When in doubt.
Boom.
That's
Transmission
pretty
paid. So
if you have a satellite, if you have your satellite set up to Blockstream satellite, you will receive it directly no matter where you are. You were talking about it in the Bent, and I thought it was so cool. I just sent it. I sent it out through the satellite network. Your Bent, your newsletter through the.
Pretty meta.
So fucking cool.
Pretty meta. Very meta. Sending a link to the article about the SAT node to the SAT node.
And there's a guy who does PGP signed messages with like daily news bulletins. Like, that's so fucking cool.
Yeah, and and again, like, it's cool, and again, going back to the usability, like, I can see we're not that far from every Telegram user being able to do stuff like this, and
oh yeah, back to the Telegram app. That's really cool.
While SatNode is just like one fun gimmick, it's just one application of using the Lightning Network and these relay networks in one fashion. There can be other apps that can be made, and the ability to buy shit and information with microtransactions.
The Telegram app, you can buy stuff in person too.
Yeah,
you just take a picture, upload the picture.
You take a picture of the QR code, upload the QR code as a picture in the app, and it reads it and says, "Do you want to pay this invoice?" You hit yes, and you pay for it right away.
I mean, I don't know why you would do that. Like, why wouldn't you just have a Lightning Wallet app on your phone? But it's cool.
Maybe, again, optionality. Maybe some people don't want to go that far.
I mean, it would be cool if, like, let's say like you have a friend or someone, or like a child, one of your kids, and they're abroad and they need to pay for an invoice. They can just message you the QR code in Telegram, and then you can put it in the bot and just pay it right away.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and we talked about this a few months ago, but we've seen Telegram Lightning Network apps that let you pay for local Wi-Fi and stuff like that. So the ability is there to do this microtransaction shit, and it's fun. Speaking of microtransactions, check out tftc.com, or excuse me, tftc.io/dime-bag.
/dime-bag.
Yes. It's a mouthful.
There you go. The other thing is Telegram has a shitcoin coming out soon. Are they still going to launch that?
I'm not positive. Are we going to have to move apps? Are we pumping the wrong app right now?
I wonder if they'll probably won't crack down on LN apps and stuff like that. They've been pretty good about just letting any bots just run wild.
Yeah. Where's Telegram based out of? They're out of, like, Russia, right? Or
no, he left Russia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about.
I don't know. I feel like they're connected to an intelligence agency. I'm just not sure. That's what I always say about Telegram, is they're like one of the few ones that I'm not sure which one they're associated with, whether it's the Russians or the Americans.
Yikes.
Who knows?
Hey, if you're listening out there, what's up? Just be chill. Stay humble, stack sats. Yeah, that's all we have for topics. We got about 10 minutes to riff here if you want to riff on anything. If anything...
well, we have BitBlock Boom coming up.
Oh, that's true.
It's a nice small conference. You had a great time last time. We have like an all-star lineup of speakers. Gary Leland, who runs it, we've met him. He's a great dude. So like that might be a good one to go to. It's in Dallas. What's the dates? August 17th and 18th?
Yeah, I believe it's like the third weekend in August.
Our discount code is RHR, so you get 30% off on that.
And I think you go to bitblockboom.com to check that out. Yeah, it was a lot of fun last year. Texas. That was my first time in Texas last year. This will be my second time this year. So
Texas is great.
I don't make it to Texas as often as I should. Still need to get to Austin. Hear a lot of good things about Austin.
Yeah, I haven't been to Austin yet.
A lot of good Bitcoiners in Austin.
Yeah, I have a couple buddies there too.
Yeah.
Definitely got to make our way over there at some point.
Yeah.
Talking about Bitcoiners, we got a really good crew of New York City Bitcoiners. I think we're going to, this is an exclusive little tease. I think we're going to run a Coldcard Wasabi full node workshop for like that full stack that we were talking about earlier. So stay tuned for that. That should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, if you're in the New York area and want to interact with a Coldcard in person,
just stay tuned.
Yeah, stay
we
tuned.
haven't said any details yet. We think we'll include a Coldcard in it, and we'll see.
Yeah,
should be a good time. We have a lot of good New York City Bitcoiners who are going to step on the plate and help run that with us.
Yeah. It's funny. I was met with a New York Bitcoiner last night. We're talking about how, and we've talked about this a lot before. It's funny how many quality people in the Bitcoin space there are here in the city in particular, as it's one of the harshest regulatory-wise for Bitcoin companies.
I know it's really weird, but we do have numbers on our side. I was thinking about that, right? Like, what is it, like 10 million in the metropolitan area?
It's true.
So, like, of course, the subset are going to be Bitcoiners.
The law of numbers comes into play there. Bound to be quality people when you hit that threshold. There's something else I wanted to riff on. Some of you are keen on staying on top of is facial recognition and privacy stuff. So there was a school in Western New York up by Lake Erie, I believe, a school district that's about to implement facial recognition technology in their schools. And if you read the article, New York Times article, it's actually interesting because it's not the state implementing it or the district. They basically got sold by some quote-unquote security advisor who is like his job is to go and fearmonger.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Ring bullshit, right? Where Amazon's going around trying to further the surveillance state because it just helps their bottom line. We saw this with 9/11 with the Patriot Act. You see it all the time. You sell them on fear. I think this place was close to
the Connecticut school.
Yeah, that shooting that happened. Mm-hmm. So they sold them on the fear. It's the summer break. They're like pushing in the system now, and then in the fall, all these kids are going to get tracked.
That was what was most fucked up about it. They had like a school board meeting in the middle of June or something like that when everybody's
like
on vacation.
2 months after school ended or a month after school
So nobody was there to object. But it seems like the parents are pissed off. But
then they said, fuck you, we're doing it anyway.
Yeah.
It's so fucked up,
and
man.
this system would... They're saying it's just to identify basically people that are on list that are marked as like bad people.
But isn't it behavior too? It's supposed to detect
that's what
if students are showing like the signs of about to shoot at the school.
Actually, I went and reread the article thoroughly because I actually almost wrote that in the bent, and in the article it does not say that. But I would not be surprised if this technology has that ability and it will be used in that fashion in the future.
I posted like a bunch of articles that were connected to the basically the creeping surveillance state into our schools. And one of them was, so I'm not sure if I'm mixing them up, but one of them was an acoustic device that's measuring sounds constantly and deciding when aggression is shown.
It's like sonar?
No, it's recording. It's a mic that's recording, and it's deciding whether or not like voices are aggressive and whether or not that shows like signs of maybe the student or the teacher will be aggressive in the future. It's fucked up, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's fucked up, and this is one case of one school district in one state, but boiling frogs happen slowly and then suddenly. And if you see the pictures of like the surveillance, I don't know if they were from the system and from this particular school district, but for you parents out there, just like sending your kids and having them watched by some weird security guard and monitored, and especially at that young of age when you're going through such a formidable change in your life and you're very impressionable, like having these systems try to determine how you should naturally react based on facial recognition just doesn't seem very natural or organic to me.
I mean, you see the route we're going on here. The kid gets born, you take his DNA, you put him in the system, you take a picture of him as a little baby, then you just take constant video of him and audio of him throughout his whole childhood growing up. I mean, in China right now, to get into the school to begin with, you have to go, in some schools, you have to go through a face check just to get into the school. Like, that's the end result here. And, it's gonna obviously stifle free expression. It's going to stifle creativity, and it's going to, people start self-censoring themselves, even if they're not censoring you directly, right? Like, people will just start watching what they say. They're afraid it's going to come back to haunt them.
Yeah. Is that the future we want, freaks? It's a question you have to ask yourselves.
I mean, I did so much shit in fucking school that I would never want videos of.
Oh, my God. Stuff. I went to an all-guys prep school. It was
my
like
God.
The shit that went down in those hallways were like...
We at least had the ladies to keep us in check.
No, none of that. Yeah.
I have another thing that we have to talk about. Singapore's tax agency proposes to exempt cryptos from capital gains tax because the biggest, everyone says like no one spends Bitcoin anywhere. Like no one wants to calculate their capital gains tax on like a $2 coffee purchase, right? So like the first step is like taxing these things appropriately. And it'll be a good experiment if they actually pass it in Singapore to see if we see usage increase there in terms of actual payments.
Yeah, and maybe the data will show that there's more tax collection via sales tax from the commerce used than actually the capital gains tax. Maybe that's a stat you look for to see if that's more. I mean, if you're looking at from the state's point of view.
I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, they could easily do sales tax and just every time you do a transaction you pay. But that's so much easier to calculate. Like, okay, it's a percentage of $2. It's not when did I get these sats, how much did I pay for them, file it all away and then like report it in a year. Like that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's insane.
It's insane.
I would rather just spend my cash than do all that process. And that's why like everyone who says like spend and replace, that's a fucking headache and a half. No one wants to do that.
No.
And then there's one more thing. Deutsche Bank.
Oh yeah.
We never talked about that. I'm sure you talked about it in a lot of detail in Paranoid Bulls, so I'm excited to hear that.
Yeah, I mean we can end it here on macro. Yeah, Deutsche Bank, they've been falling. Their stock price has been marching towards zero. The German 10-year, they just did a treasury auction for 10-year German bonds. Or was it 30-year? I forget if it was 10 or 30-year, and they were negative, so I think it was 10-year. So they had a bond auction in Germany the other day, and that 10-year yield is negative right off the bat, so those investors are basically expected to lose money on that investment right away. And then, yes, at Deutsche Bank, they're the canary in the coal mine right now. They're the biggest bank in Germany, I believe the biggest bank in Europe, and to sort of, I guess, as a last-ditch effort to save themselves, to save the sinking ship, they're going to spin out what's quote-unquote a bad bank with their bad assets to try to, I guess, bifurcate the core of Deutsche Bank's holdings.
So that fails, but they don't.
Yeah, but I don't see that happening. Or
even that spin-off is too big to fail, right? They got to build it out.
It's like logically, like how could you even market that to...
Who's going to buy that?
Exactly.
Did you see, like, the stat that it's, like, Robinhood users, like, all the millennials on Robinhood are, like, buying the DB dip? They're, like, the number of Robinhood holders has gone through the roof.
Really?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah, and they laid off 20,000 people.
Oh, yeah.
And most importantly, we have a
Bitcoin
new
bad
meme.
guy.
Bitcoin bad guy, yeah.
Yeah, new meme. A suit tailor who was at Deutsche... This is actually poetic. He's at Deutsche Bank measuring probably some exec... on a new fitted suit the day that they're laying off 20,000 people, and some photographer, I'm not sure with what agency, snapped a photo of him walking by DB's headquarters with Deutsche Bank sign in the background. He's holding a bag that says Bitcoins on it.
And everyone thought he was laid off, that he was one of like all the big newspapers ran with it. It was in Financial Times. I think like New York Times are the same.
Yeah, it was in the biggest German paper, apparently. That's what got shared with me originally.
And it turns out this guy's a Bitcoiner that's a tailor, like a really high-end tailor. And every time he goes to a bank client, like a big bank client, he brings this bag so he could take a picture in the lobby with the with the bank logo in the background. It's just like an elaborate troll.
Yeah, but I think the poetry of him being, like he said, he was there to measure somebody and sell suits to somebody, to some exec. I would be interested to know. I hope it's not one of the laid off people, but
it can't be. No one gets a suit tailored at DB while they're getting laid off.
Yeah. So just think about the juxtaposition of the execs basically getting off free. And another thing to mention, this Deutsche Bank saga in particular, is this year, the last bonus season, the execs awarded themselves the most bonuses that they have in the history of Deutsche Bank.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
That's a little bit actions speak louder than words, man.
Exactly. So we'll end it
That's
there.
because the incentives don't work.
They don't.
Yeah.
They're incentivized to take as much advantage of the Cantillon effect as possible.
Exactly.
And we'll end it there. This was a fun one.
I had a great time. Freaks, we'll see you next week. Stay humble and stack sets.
Roof rips are fun. Peace and love.